Hey you guys, today was actually meant to be a makeup tutorial. I was trying to show you how to go from looking really disheveled to looking more awake, but my neighborhood has been really noisy today, and so yeah, the hour-long video I made is just really not usable. There's so much background noise. So for now, the background noise has quieted down, but I'm ready for it to come back at any moment. And so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to answer some of your questions. Many of you ask about my favorites, like what is my favorite this or my favorite that, and I have made a couple videos talking about like my favorite video games, my favorite bands, stuff, or albums, maybe that kind of thing. But I will just kind of combine your questions in this video, and I will be using my handy dandy Panda note where I've written down some of the questions, so there will be just a tiny bit of tapping on the notebook as I talk. But really, this is just a simple video. Again, it's not really a planned video, and it's one that I just am doing really off the cuff. So it's going to be really simple. I know some of you prefer a lot more in terms of production, but for those of you who just like it simple, this is for you. And it also gives me the chance to just go to audio if I need to. The reason I would do that is so that I can go lock myself in a quiet room to finish the video. Hopefully at this point I won't have to, but we'll see. So anyway, this is my Panda note. Many of you have seen it before. And it has my secrets and everything else in it. So, I love this panda. So, I'm going to try to figure out where I wrote down some of your questions. And again, these are just, there we go. So these are just questions about just my favorite things. And I don't know. You can tell me about your favorite things in the comments, which I always love to read, so if you feel like it. But these are just some of the ones that I've gotten asked again and again. And the background noise is actually flaring up again. I think someone is using some power tools, so I am going to go ahead and make this a audio only video, just to make sure that you have something in case you need some content to get you through the next day or two, okay? So we'll switch to audio only, so I invite you to just close your eyes, and I'll make it more of kind of an ear-to-ear thing for you, okay? That'll do. So I've decided that along with telling you my favorites, I will be typing them up. And I'm gonna go through. I'm on the stairs, so Bernard is walking around. You might hear his little padded paws on the stairs. The stairwell is the quietest place I could find in my house right now. So, yes, but I'll go ahead and answer your questions, but I will also type them up so that can put them on my blog if you want, or something like that. So again, all of these questions have been asked fairly recently, and some I've probably answered before, but here they all are, kind of together. So the first one I've been asked a couple times recently is, what is my favorite song? So, what is your favorite song? And my favorite song, when I was growing up, was a song called "The Passenger," and that was by Iggy Pop. And I loved that song growing up. I related to it a lot, but I would say my favorite song of all time now, and for many years, I guess, if you have to have a favorite song, which is hard, is probably a song called Total Recall by a band called The Sound. And there is a really wonderful version of it that was live. Let me see if I can find it actually on the internet. Let's see. Sound, Total Recall, live version. I don't know what year. It would have been the 1980s, I guess. So, anyway, I'll see if I can find that version to put it up, but I'm not seeing it right away. So, anyhow, in that live version, the singer, who is no longer alive, he introduced it by saying, this is a love song called Total Recall. And yeah, I'll say it here. This is a love song called Total Recall. And of course, Total Recall is also a movie that I quite enjoyed the original of and refused to see the remake of. But anyhow, the song is quite melancholy and sad and beautiful. And yeah, it's my favorite song, Total Recall. A love song called Total Recall. Which is kind of nice to say Total Recall, Total Recall. So, anyhow, what is your favorite movie? Okay. What is my favorite movie? Again, that's difficult, but I think I've said before, and I'll say again, that my favorite movie is a movie called Brazil, like the country, and it's a Terry Gilliam movie, and so we know that it's going to be a bit odd. It's quite odd, and it's quite, I don't know, it's quite reminiscent of a lot of very dire futurism, and yeah, it's quite dystopian, and at the same time it's quite obviously quite relevant even today. It's probably 20 years, 30 years old now, that would be. Again, I guess I could look it up, but anyhow, it's it's quite funny, and it's quite horrifying, and there are like 30 cuts of it with different endings and things like that. So it's kind of a movie that is a little bit of a labyrinth in itself. So I'll actually make a note. And the movie has many versions. Some with different endings and a director's cut. So like I said, it's like its own little labyrinth. It's its own little puzzle. The next I get asked a lot, which is, what is your favorite video game? This is hard. I have so many favorite video games, but I will say, as I always do, Final Fantasy VI, which I'll note was actually released as Final Fantasy 3 in the US. Final Fantasy VI is an incredible game and stands the test of time. It has a huge cast of characters, it has a huge world, actually basically 2 huge worlds. And it introduced a lot of the features, gameplay, and standards that we still hold for JRPGs. And I think it even transcends JRPG into just a lot of elements we expect in terms of storytelling, character building, and to some degree world exploration. So, but I like to annotate that that's a very, very close tie with the game Chrono Trigger from a similar time and from some of the same people. Chrono Trigger, which introduced so many things. It was one of the first games to really give you options in terms of how the ending turned out, and had really great replay value with New Game Plus, and again, great character building, best JRPG combat or menu-based combat of the time. And the combinations were amazing. So I'll note that it had such great combinations. And made you really, really think about group formation. Yeah, you really had to think about who you were going to put together in a team, depending on what combos you liked and which challenges you were facing. So it's just a wonderful, wonderful game, wonderful music. So it's very close between Final Fantasy VI and Chrono Trigger. My favorite book. This is hard. What is your favorite book? And this is probably the hardest for me, my favorite book, but I've said before, my favorite book is Germinal by Emile Zola. And I should note that that's translated from the original French. Germinal is highly emotional, but it's very political, and it perfectly demonstrates Emile Zola's commitment to understanding environment, to tracing genetics, family lines, patterns of poverty, and the seeds of revolution, as well as the tragedies of revolution. So it was really, really lovely, and so journalistic at the same time. One of my cats is named Etienne. Etienne is one of the main characters in Germinal. Etienne Lantier. But Etienne, my cat, is partially named for that because it's my favorite book, but it's also partially named for my husband's, one of his favorite bands of all time is called Saint Etienne. Saint Etienne. I'll write that too because they're very good. And they have Saint Etienne the band. Is just extremely influential, really, really prolific. And if you ever get to see them live, they're just a lot of fun. So, anyway, so my cat Etienne, he gets to sort of represent two of our favorite things in this household, and mine is the book Germinal. But again, I say that I put that up there with Nabokov's Lolita. Vladimir Nabokov's Lolita, and gosh, Lolita is disturbing, and I think maybe some of the themes can be really triggering, depending on what you've been through in your life. But for me, maybe that is why I see it as such a perfect book. It really, really, really shows the delusion of an unreliable narrator. And it teaches us, or it asks us as readers, to be smarter than the person talking to us, which is wonderful. I don't know that anyone was actually smarter than Vladimir Nabokov. Maybe Jorge Luis Borges. Borges and Nabokov could have given each other a run. But yes, he has, Nabokov, that is, has this way of, he felt very inspired by American cinema when he was in America. And so the books that he wrote while he was in America were much more suited to become films, actually. He really wished for a couple of his works to become films. Lolita did become a film, and obviously there were really great people involved. I don't think it does it justice. Vladimir Nabokov is a good storyteller, but he's an even better writer. There's a difference between good storytelling and good writing, and often they go hand in hand, and that's what we hope for in love. But in any case, I think that the movie, takes away from us getting to engage with the actual text. So, and if you like Lolita, Nabokov wrote a short story that inspired it. I believe called The Enchanter, maybe? I have it on my shelf, I'll have to look. I've read it a bunch of times, so I should know the name. And you can see that is really the germ and the impetus for Lolita. But if you enjoy that, you'll also probably enjoy Laughter in the Dark, which is similar. It's very much written as a movie. It's very cinematic and therefore much more accessible than some of Nabokov's other work, like Pale Fire, for instance, which is amazing. Pale Fire, right? But Pale Fire is definitely a reader's book, a literature lover's book, whereas books like Lolita are really, really great for academics, and they're also really, really great for just someone who wants to be told a great story. So it's got that range. Germinal doesn't have that range. I have, here's Bernard again. Hi, bud. Germinal doesn't have that range. In fact, Germinal has been my favorite book since I was a teenager, I think. And it's funny because, you know, if you start dating somebody, they always want to, like if you're dating someone and they're crazy about you and you like them a lot too, you want to learn about each other. I've had a lot of guys tell me they were going to read Germinal because they knew I loved it. And I always say, like, oh, that's really sweet, but, you know, it's okay, you don't have to. Nobody's ever gotten through Germinal that either friends or people I've dated or whatever. They always eventually give up on Germinal. Other people may find it tedious, so it's just, I think it's just that I'm very, like, I don't know. I like to look around at every little detail. So anyway, don't feel bummed if you can't get through it and it's not for you. Many people have also stopped short, so, but the other books I mentioned are much easier to get through. And if you really want to engage with Emile Zola, I would say he has some more accessible works for sure. You might try Therese Raquin. I think that's probably his most accessible. And it is an amazing, terrible book, and I love it. I think when it came out, there's a quote that a critic called it a quagmire of slime and blood. So if that doesn't tell you how great it is, I don't know what will. So anyway, okay, moving along from. So those are some books, and oh, you can hear Bernard talking a little. He doesn't understand why I'm sitting on my stairs talking into a microphone. So anyway, so we did song, we did movie, video game, books. We did books. Oh, this is kind of a fun one. Some of you have asked me about my favorite cities, my favorite places to be. So, what are your favorite cities or places to travel? And that's again, there's such a lot of world to see. So I would say that my hometown is honestly my favorite city, which is quite biased. My hometown, I am from Seattle originally, and that is in Washington, in the Pacific Northwest. If you're not from America, that's what we call it. The Pacific Northwest of the United States of America. USA. Okay. And it is on the West Coast, which we call the Best Coast. And if you're from Seattle, people call you a mossback. Mossback, which is kind of cute. And a mossback is someone who's been in the rain all their life, like I have. And so, yeah, a true mossback, loves coffee and can talk about coffee like it's wine. They'll talk about the different notes in the bouquet of it or whatever, the flavor profile anyway. So coffee, obviously, we're known for technology and airplanes and all kinds of things. But I love Seattle because the people here are really ridiculously friendly for the most part, and that is important to me. There's something called the Seattle Freeze, right there, the Seattle Freeze, and that is the idea that when people come here, they feel like people are friendly, but then they can't really penetrate through that to make like real good friends. And I think it's not because we're not genuine. I think it's because the expectation here is kindness, and so I think most people you'll meet in the Pacific Northwest will be quite kind, quite openly. We're pretty open about trying to be nice and considerate, kind of like the stereotype of a Canadian. We're so close to Canada. And so I think that some people mistake that because they're like, whoa, everyone's so nice. It must mean that we're really, really good friends. And it doesn't mean that people don't like you. It just means that our standard here is to be very nice. And so you may perceive that as people being very eager to then follow up and become really close friends. But really it's just kind of the standard. So yeah, so I think people sometimes are confused by it. But I think it's that, oh, we're kind, but we're also sort of, again, we're mossbacks. We like to be comfortable. We like to be in our warm homes. And so you sort of have to, reach out to us. If you want to make friends in Seattle or in the Pacific Northwest in general, I would say, if someone is nice to you, it's great, and it does mean they like you and they're nice, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to reach out to you. We don't want to be seen as overbearing, and since we're nice, we try to be nice in general. It's just our way. So if you meet somebody and you want to hang out and like them, you should invite them. A great thing to do is invite them out to coffee. So, and I love when people do that. I love getting asked out on friend dates. Where someone's like, "Hey, I think you're cool. Let's hang. Let's hang out. Let's be friends." So, but cities. So that's my favorite city because I love it so much. There's so much natural beauty, and you can get to the islands, to a rainforest, to the mountains, to basically desert and wine country, all within just a few hours. So the access to so much regional beauty is important to me. And there's so many places where you can go to hear lectures and learn things, and there's a good book culture and reading culture, and there's a really great tech culture. We have things like PAX, we have great game developers like Valve. So anyway, that's enough about Seattle, but hopefully it shows you why I love it so much. I would say though, around the world, if I could pick another hometown, I would say it would be Bangkok. Bangkok, obviously, silent. So, Bangkok is not the name of Bangkok. The name of Bangkok is really, 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 really long, and someday I will try to say it for you. But I still don't think I say it right, so I'm not even going to try right now. Bangkok is in a lot of ways the opposite of Seattle, and maybe that's something I love about it. But to me, there's something around every single corner. It's so big, it's so diverse, and I really, really, really love day-to-day life in Bangkok, although it's hot. It's really hot, and you have to be very, very aware. You have to keep your eyes and your ears open because there's all kinds of things. There's traffics and there's tuk-tuks. Tuk-tuks are the little sort of like electric rickshaw kind of thing. Tuk-tuk, tuk-tuk. That's a fun thing to say, but they call them tuk-tuks because that's the noise they make. They make tuk-tuk, 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 tuk-tuk. So the tuk-tuk is kind of synonymous with tourists, actually. In Bangkok, they call tourists or non-nationals farang. So I definitely stand out. But there are great things, obviously, tourist things to do. But outside of that, there's so many wonderful temples and theaters and places to eat. Almost all of them are not inside actual restaurants. So out on the street or in little garages and things like that. And the people are exciting to me, and I love them. I really do. So yeah, I would say, Bangkok is probably like my second city. But there's lots of places I love. Reykjavik is amazing. Reykjavik in Iceland. And that's probably because Reykjavik is so much like Seattle in a lot of ways. But I feel like I could live in Reykjavik and be really happy. So, yeah, I think I could be really, really happy there. I think about it sometimes. So Reykjavik is beautiful. It's just stunning. It's just blue and white and lovely. It does smell a little bit like sulfur, which you get used to, but it is, to me, it's the cleanest city I've ever seen. It's 100% clean energy because they just harness the volcanic landscape, and everything is geothermal. And right outside Reykjavik is this huge land that's just rife for exploration. So, and the best way to do that is on an Icelandic horse. And I mentioned this in a blog, but the Icelandic horse can do the tolt. The tolt is a gait that the Icelandic horse can only do. The tolt. The tolt. It's a nice word. Tolt. 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 Kind of sounds like tuk-tuk. Tuk-tuk. Tolt. Anyway. So you can either tuk-tuk through Bangkok or tolt outside of Reykjavik. But I like those places. I love Paris. That sounds cliche, but Paris is spectacular in every way, and no one will ever, ever, ever convince me of anything different. So, sport, my favorite sport. Someone asked what my favorite sport is. What is my favorite sport? Okay, this is an easy one because I really only have one sport I like. Well, one class of sport, and most of you might not even consider it a sport, but I like motorsports. Not NASCAR. I like Formula One. Some people have called me elitist for liking Formula One. That's fine. If you judge people that much based on what kind of motor racing they like, then that's fine. But I like Formula One. I've talked about it plenty, but to me it is the pinnacle of bringing together the courage and the instincts of humans, along with the design and the inspiration, and there's something very interpersonal about everything that happens as well. So to me, it's just completely engaging, Formula One. And I'm interested in some of the Formula One, in the same, not the same tier, but the same kind of racing. Single car racing has, now they have Formula E, which is sort of silly. Formula E is a little over the top for me right now. It feels a little gimmicky. They have they call it E-motion, and they have like a fan boost where you can vote which drivers get a boost, which I find really inane and silly. But then there's other formula levels. There's GP3. There's karting. There's Formula Renault. I mean, there's and I am into endurance racing. I think it's really cool. I just watched Le Mans sometime, and I think you'll find it is the epic of racing. So anyhow, I like that class of motorsport. I'm also somewhat into rally car, and rally car is cool because not so much much rallycross, I'll say. I don't love rallycross. There's nothing wrong with it, but I grew up going to a lot of like drag races and stock car races and like demolition kind of events, and they're just so I don't know. I think they're sort of lowbrow. That doesn't mean that they're not enjoyable. I love certain things that are lowbrow, but they just, seem more carnal, and there's nothing wrong with that. But anyway, I'm going on and on. As far as sports that just sort of involve athletics, question mark. I don't know. I'm really not into other sports, so sorry if that's kind of a letdown. I did play some sports growing up. I played soccer, or what most of the world calls football, and I can do yoga, ballroom dance, I like rock climbing, stuff like that, but there are no sports, like arena sports or anything that I watch, so, okay, I'll do one more, because this has come up a bunch. People seem to note that when I talk about my favorite things, I tend to talk about older things, so yeah, let's talk about, like older things from the past. And I'm not sure necessarily why that is. That it's not that I don't enjoy what's going on now. There's tons of, movies and games and books and music and everything else going on right now that I love. So, but when you talk about favorites of something, I think most of us attach some sort of staying power and nostalgia, to something. So our favorites tend to be more from the past. But someone wanted to know what my what my favorite band, like my current favorite band is. So what's my favorite current band? I think they said like currently creating music. Technically my favorite band, New Order, is creating music. Not all of them together, but anyway. And as a lot of you know, I've talked about my cat, Bernard, walking back and forth around during this recording. And of course Bernard is named after Bernard Sumner from New Order. So anyway, but my current favorite bands, like a newer band that I just love and have loved for a long time, is they're called the Marionettes. The Marionettes. Actually, it's like this one. Right. And yeah, the Marionettes. It's kind of a peculiar name. Let's see. Maybe I can link to one of their. Maybe I'll link to some of their videos or something for you. Yeah, they are. A lot of my favorite bands actually are Scandinavian, Northern European bands. I like a lot of Swedish bands, Icelandic musicians, things like that. And the Marionettes, they do sing in English. And oh my goodness, they are what I think the band The Sound would have been if they were still around today. They're like that, I don't know, electro dream pop, something like that. Synth, I don't know. Maybe I'll just put like dream pop, sounds good to me. Okay. And yeah, I mean there's so many genres and subgenres, but let's just say that their music is really beautiful to me. It's very pretty, and it's a little bit this is sort of cheesy. And Joe Strummer from The Clash, he said, something along the lines of, when you listen to a song, someone has torn that song out of their heart. And so I feel that way about the Marijuanas. I feel that, each song comes really, really, really deeply from them. And really it's very easy to listen to. It's not the most avant-garde, and some of their most recent stuff has been even more atmospheric than usual, which is still done in a way that I find interesting and compelling. So anyway, yeah, the Marijuanas I love. There's lots of current bands I love. Sometimes I put up like little playlists on my blog. Maybe I'll put up another little playlist. Because there's just some music sometimes that really, really suits the situation. So anyway, so those are some of the questions that I've been asked lately. Feel free to ask more. Feel free to answer the questions yourself in the comments. And thanks for bearing with me for doing this kind of really, really impromptu, simple, low-key thing. It's been fun. And I will be back with an actual video sometime very soon for your viewing pleasure as well as your listening pleasure. But until then, have a wonderful night, have a wonderful day, do good work, and just be happy.